right, once again, it's time for Off the Top Sportscast. I'm John, and that guy right there is Roy. Roy, we have a little NFL recap. It's already week 2 done for, and a lot has happened. So we kind of want to check in and see where we're at and what we should be looking for in the future, what we have seen so far out of a couple of these teams. Roy, get us started with a team.
All right. So we're going to pick in this conversation of the NFL season. So far, week 2, we're going to pick 3 teams apiece, and we're going to talk a little bit about them. The first team I want to talk about is a team that really people were hoping that would change, or I should say, turn the corner. In essence, they've turned the corner and have hit a brick wall. So my question or team to discuss is the New York Giants. Are we talking wah, wah, wah? Could somebody be gone? Could Vrabel? Could they lose the rookie wide receiver already, saying, I don't want to play for the Giants? Could it be the $1 million man? Could it be Jones? Could they say, we need to draft another quarterback? Could it be that they let Saquon Barkley go and they could have go, hey, we could have used that. But instead, they were just like, oh my goodness. So what says you? Who's gone first? Who's gone second? What happens with the Giants?
Well, I think definitely Dayball is on the hot seat for sure. I think it actually hurts them that they went to the playoffs that first year, if that even makes sense. How could going to the playoffs hurt you? Well, it brought up expectations that they didn't have before. He would have had a good 3 years to kind of build this team. But instead, they went to the playoffs that first year. The owner was like, oh, we've got something going. And then, right? So I think Dayball's in a hot seat. I think what I see from that team that is disturbing is that he is now in year 3 of his, and I should say there, because Joe Brady and him are linked at the hip. The general manager and him, who both came from Buffalo, both came at the same exact time, have the same time on task. And I can't imagine one of them staying and the other one going. I think they're a package deal. If one goes, the other one goes, because they both came in with that similar vision, What I think is the worst part is that their offense has not taken any steps forward. Not one. And that's really disappointing for a guy who, brought along Josh Allen and helped him become what he is. And you haven't had any development, any wide receiver development, any development of any offensive lineman. This is year 3. What do you have to show for your development? It's really, really nothing. You're actually backwards.
Yeah, and the problem I see the Giants kind of like the Titanic. They're out there. They were looking beautiful, right? Everybody wanted to ride. And then all of a sudden, what I call the iceberg was the playoffs. That was the iceberg that the Giants fan went, Daboll, like this was the guy, this was it. No, it wasn't. Jones was who he was. You thought he was going to be great. Yeah, you got rid of, you had an injured running back time and time again, but one of the best. And right now, you let him walk somewhere else. And I don't blame you. You got a great wide receiver. You got a great wide receiver that you picked up off the the draft. I get it, but you gotta have you. I think they were thinking they were farther along than really what they were, and the fans thought that. I even think the coaching staff thought that, and that's
Mhm.
where the Titanic started to sink. The problem is, like you said, GM and coach are tied together. So when it goes down, you can't just get rid of one and not the other, because the GM, was the guy who had the game plan and brought the coach along. So I tell you this, I'm having a hard way that thinking that we won't see them taken by the fans, tied up in the middle of Giant Stadium and burned at the stake, because I can't see them going much farther than the end of this year. They're 0-2. 0-2. What do you foresee them going? You foresee them winning the next couple of games? I don't know. I could even dabble
Yeah.
and try to look at their schedule for a second here, really quick, and we could play. Uh, uh,
Well, while you look that up, let me tell you where they went wrong.
where they were. You tell me.
Okay.
I got.
All right. So here's what the biggest problem was. If you remember when Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane came to Buffalo, the first year they made the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor. They broke the drought. All Bills fans know about the drought. The next year, you know what they didn't do? They didn't re-sign Tyrod Taylor. They said, "Thank you so much, Tyrod. Please have these parting gifts. Here's some Flutie Flakes. Here's some buffalo wing sauce. We send you on your way to your next team."
Right.
They didn't
Surprise.
double down.
Yeah, and he's still not a starting quarterback, really.
That's right. But what they didn't do was say, because he broke the drought, that's our guy. They knew just because he had a good season that he was what he was, and that's not the guy. What Daboll and the Giants did was, when they got into that playoffs, they fooled themselves into thinking because they got into the playoffs that Daniel Jones was the guy, and then they signed him, and then they doubled down on that mistake by not trading Saquon that year when he had high value. So then you wait the next year and he walks for nothing. So
Right.
what you needed to do is you needed to say, if Daniel Jones is my guy, I need to get something for Saquon so that now I can build a team for Daniel Jones. But they didn't do that. They just started building the team this draft, and they only started building the team with their draft capital.
Right.
And what did they do? They went out and they traded for Burns from Carolina, the defensive end, using draft capital. So now you just used draft picks. So now you're even farther behind on your development, and you got a wide receiver thinking that was gonna help. It's gonna help, but
No.
it ain't the answer. The team that I have been actually, you chose a team that is on the way down. I'm going to choose the reverse, a team that I think might be on the way up. I'm going to say that the Tampa Bay Bucks have found a nice little rhythm, and the rhythm has not come from the offense. I think we all can understand that Mike Evans and Godwin are two of the best wide receivers, right? Probably the two most underrated wide receivers, and definitely the most underrated wide receiver room.
Definitely.
But the defense has come alive. The defense has come into play. And now when that starts to happen, Baker starts to make plays. He's getting real comfortable in that offense. I think we are looking at definitely the division champs, because that division is not very good. And I don't foresee them coming back to earth as much as I think they're going to plateau. There'll be a level of where they sit. And they might play a little above it, a little below it, depending on whoever they play. But I don't think you're going to see them drop very much this year. And I think you could see 10 wins out of Tampa, and going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think what you see is Baker seeing the field. When you watch him, and I watched that game, you see him, man, there was one play where Godwin and Evans were on the left. Evans kind of went on a post route, and Godwin just kind of stayed up that line. Baker saw him and just threw it right to him. It was like easy. And I think that's when Baker is at his best. When he started kind of messing up, and you could say, hey, do the Browns wish they had him? I bet you they do.
Yeah.
But he just seems so relaxed. He's a tough man. I didn't realize how gritty that guy is. And you look at the defense. Bucks always had a fairly decent defense. Their head coach, defense. But I thought they were going to take a little bit of a nosedive because they lost the one. Now they got a new offense coordinator. So and the offense coordinator proved to be good. But they just seem to be, he made it easy for him. The wide receivers are wide open. You're getting motion. Evans, you cannot deny that Godwin is probably one of the best third down receivers that are in the NFL. That guy was catching everything. Baker was, in the pocket, and he's a little guy. He's not a big guy. In the pocket, getting out of the pocket, making runs. One time he got hit. I was like, oof. He looked like he got pulled back really good.
Yeah. You know what I think we forget a lot is that Tom Brady was there. When Tom Brady was there in Tampa, they did something for Tom that is now still paying dividends for Baker. And what they did was they created a great offensive line.
That is true.
Those guys have not left.
They're holding them up, man. They were like a stinking wall.
And that offensive line, you give any quarterback, let's say a medium grade quarterback, time to throw. Then you add in A+ wide receivers. Then you add in a quarterback who can extend even a little bit more with being mobile. Baker can run it. He's not the fastest or anything, but you don't have to be the fastest at the quarterback. You just have to be able to gain 3 yards. Most of the times, if you're just gaining 3 yards, that's a fine scramble for a quarterback. Yeah. You don't have to be Josh Allen. Not everybody is. You just have to get positive yards when there's nothing. And Baker can do that. That's my take on the Bucks. I think this division is interesting with the Saints, how they're playing right now. We'll see how long that carries on. But I think the Bucks are going to win this division, go back to the playoffs, and then we'll see.
Fans of the Buck need to look at and really appreciate is they don't have major, what I call stud running backs. But White and the new rookie Irving is not bad from Oregon. Not a bad running back. And, we talked about that offense line, doing well, but Hutchinson still had 3 sacks that game.
Yeah.
3 stinking sacks. If he didn't have those sacks, I think the game could have been worse. I think they could have been worse, but they did a lot when it came to keeping Detroit in front. And that's what I saw in that game. They kept them in front. So when it comes to making first downs, they kept everybody forward. And then, Detroit, killed themselves in some parts.
And Hutchinson's a beast. So,
yes.
A top 5 defensive end having a good day against your guy, it's going to happen, especially when your offense is predicated on throwing. You drop
That's right.
pass back to pass, it's only a matter of time before that guy gets bent around the corner. So that's my take on the Bucks. Roy, what's your next team?
The next team is the team that when you think about, they should, the people have been talking about them and kind of putting them down. Have talked about them kind of, you could say, at the side of their mouth. Not thinking it, they almost in the way of saying it's over for them. Saying that they were kind of a mid-level team now. They lose a stud receiver. The Buffalo Bills. People have been talking about the Buffalo Bills like Josh Allen is a losing quarterback. They've been pretty much talking about Josh Allen, that he is overrated. And right now, Buffalo has a winning record. Cook was running like a madman.
Yeah.
And receivers were getting open. And they weren't just throwing to the young man. Coleman, he did have a nice catch, kind of backdoor catch. And I do see some potential. Do I see him as a star right now? One of this, like this Jefferson, or, maybe not. But let's give him some time. There's no rush because we have a lot of decent wide receivers. Probably, if you look at most teams, more than some. So I feel people have been really bad-mouthing Buffalo, and I think it was a little premature to bad-mouth them because I really say there's only two quarterbacks that have the it factor in this league, and that's Mahomes and Josh Allen. And I tell you, those are the only two quarterbacks that I think if they were up for sale, that people will give half the team for.
I think it's funny because, we don't have that number one wide receiver. Okay. But what we do have is guys who catch the ball. When the ball's thrown to them, they catch it. We're spreading it around. We won the first game by Josh taking over and Josh spreading the ball out. We hit 10 out of 11 receiving targets. Everybody else got at least one catch. We spread the ball all around. The second week, we just decided we're going to run it. And I had a lot of people telling me, well, Buffalo can't throw the ball. That's why they didn't throw the ball against Miami. We didn't have to throw the ball against Miami. We ran the ball. They didn't stop it. We kept on running. Why would we throw the ball? And why would we give opportunities? Let's say we throw the ball. We throw a bomb down the field. Touchdown. Took 98 seconds off the clock.
Right.
Do you really want to give the Miami Dolphins with an explosive receiving core? I mean, take away what happened in that game, but just who the identity of that team. Do you want to give them a lot of time to score? No. What you do is you run the ball, keep the offense going, matriculate down the field, and score every time, and make the Dolphins have to do the same and get less opportunities down on the field. That is the name of the game. That's how we're going to beat Kansas City. That's exactly what we need to do to beat Kansas City. Keep them off the field. Any of those teams, any of the big teams. If we can do this against any of the teams, that's a problem.
I agree. I agree completely. Now, when you think of the next 4 games for Buffalo, right now they're 2-0. It is a difficult, but the next 4 games, I personally think it could be a 50-50, or they could come up ahead. They have Jaguars, Ravens, Texans, Jets.
Yeah.
The hardest game in that for me is the Texans.
Right.
Now, people you can't sleep on, You know what I mean? You can't sleep on the Ravens. You can't sleep on Jaguars. I don't think the Jets are going to be a problem, even though they have a decent defense. But I do think we could come out 50-50, or maybe it depends on how we catch the team. We could come up ahead of the game and only lose one of them, because I'm counting that they can take the Jaguars. Ravens is going to be a battle, but it all depends how defeated they are, how we catch them. But I don't think this is going to be a game they want to lose. The Texans, we could lose that game. And we could beat the Jets. So I'm coming out, and I'll say it right now, in that, I'm hoping that we come out 3-1. Right.
Yeah, and then another component to this is that we play Monday night against the Jags, and then those next 3 games are away games. So that does make it even more difficult. I think what Buffalo never has gotten enough credit for in any of these seasons that we've been running, and we've been the top of the AFC East, and it's happened again to us this year, and we've adjusted and played wonderfully, is how good Sean McDermott is at coaching injuries. It is incredible how he develops these players, gets them ready, has them ready for whatever injury might happen. They jump right in there and play well. Irving, the young man who had the 2 interceptions, okay, the one that was deflected, and then the one that was the pressure, and Kyler, excuse me, Tua tried to throw it out and didn't get all the way out, and he ran it back for a pick 6. That young man is a University of Buffalo alum, was undrafted free agent 3 years ago, came to a Buffalo Bill tryout, got seen, got put on the practice squad, and he's been on our practice squad for 3 years developing. And when what's our nickel corner? I can't remember his name now. Johnson went down. They put him in, and they put him in against Miami Dolphins the second week starting as our nickel corner. And you know that we stay in nickel. And he did a fantastic job against very hard wide receivers to cover.
Yeah, you think about Hamlin, who was out all last year.
Yeah.
With the injury, that guy was rocking it. He was all over the place. I hate to see that the man who went out injured is the man who put the hit on Tua, who put him out injured, but it was just a fluke thing. It was just a fluke thing.
He didn't really put even a hit on him if you look at him. He caught him.
He kind of ran into him. Yeah, he ran into his chest.
He just caught him. You know what I mean? But yeah, and you know, I don't think that that McDermott gets enough credit for that coaching and development, man. Look, Terrell Bernard, our middle linebacker, goes out in that game. We bring in Balen Spector. Balen Spector is another guy who's been on our practice squad for 2 years, just developing. Just be ready, Balen. Be ready. And this week he got his chance, and he played fantastic at middle linebacker, making the calls, making the checks. I mean, it was impressive to see.
Milano's out. Think about that. You know what I mean? What do we got?
Dorian Williams. Dorian Williams is a rookie that we picked up. To have these guys just ready to play is so impressive. And to have them play big roles, be ready for the moment, and play well, man, they don't give Buffalo enough credit for that. And that's why I wasn't worried when Poyer left and Hyde left and all these guys left. I wasn't worried because of my faith in how McDermott and Brandon Beane have gotten these guys ready. I can't tell you how they've done it. All I can tell you is that they've done it, and they do it every year. And I just sit back and I don't worry about it, because guys that I don't know their name, I'll get to know their name once they get a chance to play.
All right, that's Buffalo Bills. Let's pick another team we're going to talk about. Talked about 3 so far.
Yeah, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens.
The Ravens, they were
Yeah.
supposed to be number one on top.
Well, they were the number one seed last year. They went through the playoffs, pretty easy road, and got to the Chiefs and forgot their identity, right? They didn't run the ball at all in that playoff game. So what do they do this year? They
We
go
get
out and get
ourselves a
Devin.
running back.
Yes, they get Derrick Henry. And I don't want people to think that I think it was a bad pick. It's never bad to have Derrick Henry on your team. If the
No.
option is having Derrick Henry or not having Derrick Henry, have Derrick Henry.
Well,
But
I said, hey, Derrick Henry was going to be the difference. They're
yeah,
going to throw it on his back, run that ball, and then pop it out. That's what I said.
you did. You were a big proponent, and I told you I just didn't understand how it was supposed to work because how they got better last year was by bringing in wide receivers. Last year they had the same three running backs that they drafted in succession. They drafted one. That guy did well. The next year they drafted a guy, started that guy. He did well. And the next day they had those three guys and they did well. And how they got better was by bringing in wide receivers. And they didn't do that this year. And what they did do, they brought a running back, that smash mouth running back, and then they lost offensive linemen. And this is the most understated thing about this team right now. If you go back and watch the first half of that Kansas City game and watch Jones in the middle, Chandler Jones from Kansas City, absolutely destroy three grown starting football men. He wrecked that game plan by himself. They couldn't run the ball because they were triple teaming him, which left everybody else to tackle the running back. It was their offensive line right now is, to me, a very scary problem. Lamar's great. He can run outside the pocket. He can throw on the move. He can throw a yard. He's as accurate as you need him to be. I do not find that he needs any to work on any of his quarterbacking skills like a lot of people think. But there's a difference between running the ball and being chased with the ball. And what he's doing now is being chased. And we've seen this game, and he is susceptible to injury. And then the season's over after that.
Well, you know what I saw in the games too. You talked about offensive line, but the Ravens, remember, they were still able to put points on the board.
Yeah.
In both games, they were over 20, right? 20, I think 20 and 23. The
Mhm.
problem is both other teams were like 26, 27.
Mhm.
Defensively, especially that back, cornerbacks, safeties, they seem to be coming up short with catching up with these receivers. I think that's a bigger problem. Yeah, because they're scoring. The problem is they're not even holding the other teams back from scoring more. And I think that's going to be their problem. I talk about the one place that we have talked about already that I told you there's going to be a controversy. They named this guy from the beginning a captain. But then they go, you're captain in name only. What happened here? You are the captain. You really? Foop, rug comes right out onto you because, yes, you're the captain, but you're not the starting quarterback. We started to smell it in preseason when they started to start Fields. And what they like, they're starting to feel good about what Fields gives them. So right now, Fields is in the driver's seat. They've won 2 games in a row. Yes, not real big teams, but their schedule is perfect for this situation.
Right.
So Fields right now, again, yeah, he's kind of looking the same way he looked at Chicago. Tell you the truth, I don't really see a difference or a growth in Pittsburgh. Why? Because I don't think he has the same talent of receivers that he had or could have had today if he was playing with them. So I see him the same fields, and I never thought he was a bad quarterback. I thought he is what he is. And I thought that Chicago didn't appreciate, and we're going to see what happens with Williams. But again, right now, Fields is the starting quarterback. So should Pittsburgh field good, or should they wish they had a different driver in the driver's seat?
This is a rough one for me. I think Caleb is in the exact same situation. It's a team with not a lot of talent, high-end talent. They got prospect talent. This guy might be good. This might do something. They don't have any certifiable talent. I think these last two games, or these first two games, I should say, are exactly what the rest of the year is going to look like. They're going to have to win these ugly, grinded out. The defense is going to have to hold them. If you got to hold them to under 20 if you want to have a chance to win the game.
Maybe lower than that because their game was 18-10, 13-6.
Well, to have a chance is what I'm saying. Because if you get a team that can just put up 3 touchdowns against this team, I can't see manufacturing 3 touchdowns out of Pittsburgh. So he's in the same spot. The only difference is that he has a better coach, a better organization. So I have more faith on them being able to make adjustments and find out what he does well. As far as the quarterback situation is concerned, the worst thing for Russell was to have them even be able to look and see what they have with Fields. Because what we had with Fields was not enough tape of the scenarios that we wanted to see, you know what I mean, him on. We've got tape on Russ. Nobody's confused on what Russell Wilson is. But people were confused on what Fields could be.
Could be. Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing that Russ could have done is, and I know it's not his fault, he has a bad calf. You have a bad calf, you have a bad calf. If you weren't being that mobile anyway at your age, then you have a bad calf. Don't go out there and get hurt, you know what I mean? Because you're trying to be Superman. Or make yourself even look bad for the teams that might come next year because you get out there and you really are hampered with that calf. So he did the right thing. But man, he has flashes. Justin Fields has flashes of what he could be. That throw that he ran to the right a little bit, threw downfield, hit Pickens. Listen, was it the prettiest ball ever? No. But that's what you throw when you have a big, strong wide receiver. You throw that ball to him and say, you make the play, and he's made a couple of those plays for you. And sometimes to move the chains in a big chunk like that, field position-wise, that's all you need. You get a couple of pass interference calls in a game, and that offense is in business. You know what I mean?
Right now, again, if they go 50-50, that's a 4-2 record. For me, so far, that's success.
Oh, success for this team. Yes, absolutely.
I almost think, and this is the way I feel, I think they could beat the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could beat the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 50-50 is the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think they beat the Raiders.
Okay.
If they do that, so far that would be a massive success for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, if they play the young man that long and he's that successful, Wilson's not playing.
I can't imagine them putting what would be the reason if he's playing in this third game, There's no reason to go to Wilson because really, no matter what happens, success, no success in this season, I know Pittsburgh fans are thinking that way. It should not matter. They should not be thinking that way. It should be thinking to prove what we have. They need to figure out what they have, and they need to figure it out in more than just Justin Fields' area. Because Najee Harris, you didn't pick up that fifth-year option. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to decide, am I paying for Najee? Is Warren the answer? Am I going to need to go out and get another running back? How many wide receivers do I need to bring in here? Do I need to go get a free agent? Can I spend a draft pick on a wide receiver and think that he's going to make a difference? Is Freiermuth the answer? Is the other big guy who scored a touchdown the answer? There's a lot of questions for this team, and I think if this is the year, if this is not the year that you make wholesale changes, you better be sure on the guys you keep.
Could Russell be on the trading block? He does. If they go that run and they have no value, could they say to another team, "Hey, man, he's a one and done, but he's cheap. You may want him." What about Miami? What about
I say
the Giants?
no. I say no only because he's only getting paid like $2 million from the Steelers. You're not going to find a more economical, better backup quarterback.
But you just said, what if we need a receiver? What we could say, listen, man, you need a quarterback now not to wreck your season. We'll give you that quarterback because to us, we're not playing him. He's cheap. So what? We're not investing anything. What do you got to give me?
I guess it would depend. Do they have a third quarterback in the stable right now that they're developing? I think Kyle Allen was there during the preseason. Is he still there on the practice squad? He can throw the ball. Listen, I think anything's on the table. Truthfully, I don't know what you get for him, but
Listen, there's a couple teams already that may be a little bit desperate. And that, by that time, we'll see. All right, John, this is the last pick. What do you got? What do you got? There's a lot of good teams out there.
Yeah, I wanted to. Do you have another pick after this?
Nope, that's it. I picked.
But everybody's talking about it, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins of it all. Okay? We're Bills fans. So this directly affects the AFC East.
Yeah.
I understand that Tua getting hurt again, it upsets people, and everybody's saying that he should be thinking about his family and his future and all these things. This man is a football player. This man has been working all his life for this moment right now.
True.
It is very hard to tell a man who his family has made football their business. And when I say his family is invested in his career. They moved where he moves. They all gather together. His brother is a quarterback who is I think he's is he still in college or is he an unrestricted free agent someplace? Either way,
I think he came out last year, if I remember.
Yeah. I remember him bouncing around to a couple teams. The point is, they're a football family. This is their reality. Okay, this decision is nobody's except for Tua's. What I do not like is this: their general manager coming out and saying, "We might put." Or not their general manager, excuse me. It was a general manager on one of these talk shows. Oh, they should put Tua on the IR to give him 4 weeks so he could decide. Is that the protocol? Because if that's not the protocol, if I'm Tua, I'm gonna tell you to go kick rocks, all right? Okay? Hey, what's the protocol? I go into the protocol, I start passing tests. I go from 1 stage to 2 stages to 3 stages to 4 stages. And then I get out of protocol. And that could happen in 5 days. That could happen in 10 days. Generally, it happens in about 10 to 11 days, right? and the guy's
Yeah,
ready for the
they
next.
could miss a game. They could miss a game for sure. A game for sure. They're gonna miss a game. Max, I see him come back the second game.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and if he does all that, put him in the game. Unless he's not your best option as quarterback, I don't know what they want the Miami Dolphins to do. The NFL should step in. What are you talking about, bro? If he passes it, the 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 protocols, and I understand the biggest thing with Tua is every time he gets a concussion, he what's it called? The fencing pose. You know, he tenses up. If it wasn't for that part, if he would just get hurt, hit, and be dizzy, we wouldn't be talking about it.
I mean, it could be the right. It could be because he does. He gets hit. He does that. You know what I mean? And that's scary for anybody. And really
Yeah.
wise because this is his first.
No, no, no.
I believe it's his third.
In the NFL, but he had one in college.
That's right. That's right. In the NFL. That's a little scary. But do we say that if he does not play for 2 games, is their season over?
I mean, it's early in the season. You know, their season could be over because the AFC is a very tough division. But if we look at the AFC last year, almost every team was kind of down. And it took less to get into the playoffs last year than it did the previous 3 years. So it doesn't have to necessarily be over.
Let me ask you something because I'm seeing it on the depth chart. If I was to tell you to give me a number on their team of guys that are that have a Q next to their name, an O next to their name, or an IR next to their name, how many players would you say they have?
I think they started off the season with a couple. So I would say they got Munster, they got Chubb, they got Tua. I would say 6.
I will give you the count off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And of all those with a Q by their name is only 3 of them.
Right. Wow.
That's not good news.
No.
That's not good news. And now your starting quarterback has a question. The starting running back, out. Starting left tackle, questionable.
Yep.
It's not good. And your second strings, your third strings, most of the third strings are gone.
Yeah.
IR.
Defensive end is on the PUP list, so he's gone for 4. Bradley Chubb, he's not playing for at least 4 games. So this year, the option to wear Guardian caps.
Yeah, and I already saw that. It's funny. I saw that Pittsburgh game. One of their linemen were wearing it's a lining that goes there. At first, I was like, "What the heck is that? You know, what is he wearing?"
Wouldn't you think that the Miami Dolphins, forget Tua, the Miami Dolphins, this week coming up, they should go to their guys and go, guys, we're going to keep everybody on this team as healthy as possible.
Nice.
We want all of you guys. We're going to set the example.
Yeah.
Right? And put every stinking person in a Guardian cap. If not the Miami Dolphins, if they're not the example, who in the heck is going to be? I mean, really. And I'm sure everybody in Miami would want, when Tua comes back, to wear a Guardian cap, right? Well, if you want Tua to wear it, have everybody on your whole stinking team. If I was a leader on that team, I'm not making a big announcement about it, But I am going around the locker room individually talking to every single stinking person. And I'm telling him, for practices, we're going to wear Guardian caps, everybody. And for
All right,
games,
so let's talk about that briefly. Guardian caps, what is it? It's a soft shell pad worn over the football helmet with the objective of reducing the risk of concussion and other head injuries. How much of absorption does the Guardian cap take? If you would give me a percentage.
well, 15%.
10.
Okay.
And when you look at a 10, it is a reduction. And they said in the regular season, so far, 6 players have worn this Guardian cap. And I remember when I first saw it with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which they're actually showing a picture of it. I was kind of like, at first, I'm like, something's wrong. What is that? And then I realized it was those Guardian caps that they were at, which on the preseason and in practice you see them all over the place. Practice, everyone is wearing. So I kind of agree with you is, could we make at least the quarterback one player on the field? If I'm saying, I don't really think offensive linemen, defensive linemen, wide receivers.
But
Okay.
offensive linemen and defensive linemen are the guys who need it the most.
You think so?
Every play, these guys are hitting. Every play, there's contact. Every single one. And how dumb is it to have a whole bunch of people in practice when you're going against your same team and not hitting in full hits, wearing it, but not in the games? Does that make sense?
So the question then I have is, should that eventually come into the game that everyone is wearing this? Every player.
That's why I'm saying, but one team, one person, somebody that is a star is going to have to be the one, because it looks goofy, right? That's the thing. It looks goofy. People are like, oh, this makes me look soft. So if that's the case, what you do is you make everybody wear them. And if everybody on your team wears them, nobody feels goofy. It just becomes part of the uniform.
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, the one that you wear sometimes at practice is kind of a, what do you call it? It's a very awkward, big, where the one with the Pittsburgh game, it was almost like they had the logo on it, and it had like a cap over that cap.
Right.
You didn't see all the bumps and so
Right.
I thought it was, like I said, I didn't notice it at first.
So when they're during the game, they make it just look like the helmet. When it's just in practice, they just don't have like that synthetic part over it. So you see yeah. Let's just talk about all the things in football, right? Just so people understand that people thought were weak at one time. The first time they put leather helmets on these guys were mad. They said, man, this is stupid. When they put face masks, when it was a helmet and a face mask, when you put a face mask on, these guys had one little thin bar. They didn't like the thin bar. Now we got full face masks. Now we got chin straps. Now we got technology in the helmets. We even have visors for the eyes on the helmets. All those things were considered at one time to be weak. And so if we start
with hockey, right? Hockey was the same way. And really, you say to yourself, now that you think that makes sense, because you say, has it changed the game of hockey?
Yeah. No, I mean, the essentials of hockey is the same.
No, all right. The game has not changed. Possibly the guys losing more teeth has changed.
Right.
But they still lose teeth. But I think, it makes sense if you're having these problems, even though I don't think the concussion is going to stop. But I do think it may eliminate the impact of later on what it gives. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the bottom line is this. A guy who plays football, he's playing it for 2 reasons. He loves the sport, but he loves the money. Right? Loves the sports, loves the money. And if it wasn't for the sport, some of these guys, I'm just gonna be honest, wouldn't make any money. And you know
That's
why
right.
I say that? Is because the courses they take in college. Some of they took a course just to take a course to get a
They
certain
wouldn't have gone
grade,
to college.
and they wouldn't have gone to college at
No,
all. Possibly that's it.
no.
So they're playing the sport. They're great athletes. They weren't all, not all. I'm not saying some of them aren't, because many of them are great students. They're great athletes, and that's why they play. And if you ask any of them, would they change anything? If you ask a boxer, a hockey, a baseball, Bo Jackson, you ask him, would you do it all over again? He would say yes. And some of
Yeah.
the, you say Barry Sanders, he left. Yeah, there's been some very sad situations in the NFL, drugs, concussions, and all those things. True. But these guys, at the end of the day, this is what they do. They're athletes. So I would say I would agree if the NFL says, you know what, next year you guys got to get with it, because they did change helmets over the years, even a number of years ago. You look at it. I think in the NFL, I think they have probably 4 different helmets that these
Oh, yeah.
guys could choose, and they're not made the same way. Like when I played sports, those Randall helmets, those things had little padded pads and nothing. Then the bike helmet came out. I remember when that first came out, a
Right.
revolutionary bike helmet. So there's helmets that came out differently. So I would say I do not think it will change the game, how the game is played, the excitement of the game by putting on those Guardian caps. So for me, I say I vote right now. You know what? Next year, I say make it mandatory.
Why are
Make
we
it
waiting?
mandatory.
Why are we waiting for next year, bro? They're here now. You could
They're
just
not
put
going to
them
do it
up.
now. They're not going to do it now. They're
So
not. They're going to
this is
talk about it. It's going to be a conversation.
to conclude this whole thing. I want to bring up one guy. Do you remember Matt Castle?
Yep.
So Matt
Quarterback,
Castle, backup
announcer.
quarterback for New England. He was with the Patriots when Brady got suspended for Deflategate. Matt Castle came in, threw for a whole bunch of yards, kept them in it, and they went on to win the Super Bowl that year. He went to Kansas City, had a career. He came to Buffalo at the end of his career. In the preseason, Matt Castle got a concussion. This was
Matt Castle was the Florida State quarterback? I'm trying to remember
uh,
why that's. I'm trying to think.
USC quarterback, I believe.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. Um, so he was with Buffalo. He didn't even get to play. This was actually the guy who was supposed to start the year Josh Allen got drafted. It was supposed to be Matt Castle. He got a concussion, right? He got a concussion in preseason. It took Matt Castle 2 months to get over the concussion system. 2 months. 2 months of living in the dark. 2 months of having a headache. 2 months of having a ringing sound in his ears. 2 months. Matt Castle retired, never having played for the Bills because of concussions. That is a extreme example of when you know concussions are it. What I'm trying to tell you is that the body will tell you when you cannot sustain another concussion. He got I can't remember, it was an innocuous hit. It wasn't memorable to me how he got the concussion. But what was memorable to me is that it took him 2 months. We didn't know about it. He left the team, and we didn't. When he retired, it was like in the middle of the night, like like it wasn't a big deal. But when he finally talked about it, and he said that it took him 2 months, his body was telling him, "You can't handle another concussion." And he didn't have as many concussions as Tua. It's just that that's how his body reacted to it. So when it's time, and if it ever becomes time, and I'm not wishing that for Tua. I'm simply saying that there are signs that Tua does not have that that will become prevalent if he does need to hang it up.
Guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
He's okay, people. You know what I mean? He's okay. We want him to be okay. We want him to play more football. I think he's talented. I think, coming off of Alabama, everybody, oh, he's this, he's that, he's that. And he played a good ball. He's not the greatest, but he is a good quarterback. The Guardian Cap is a prediction. You're saying they should start now. I'm saying next year they're going to be talking about it heavily. I think the Players Union is going to talk about it some more. I think people are going to want and demand to talk about it because they don't want the change of the game. We've made a lot of changes in the game. If we make more changes to the game without changing this little thing that could be changed, 10%, take 10% of the hit, I think now we're going to start changing the game, which then nobody wants to see.
I'm going to tell the players something right now, okay? When you make other people make a decision for you, it is always worse for you. If the players just decide, we're going to take this into our own hands, we're going to wear the Guardian caps, it doesn't affect the play, 10% is 10%. It's 10% more than you had. The helmet's giving you a percentage, and then the Guardian cap on top of that is giving you a percentage. But if you let some governing body, players union, NFL, it will be worse. There will be way more regulations, and you're going to hate it, and it's going to be your fault for not taking action before.
I agree, because I could see the government taking up this call. I can see now the state, the senators or whatever the heck start making this a big government. How do you feel about concussions? Doctor, what do you say? It'll mess everything.
Ask baseball how that went for them when the dumb guys started, all the Senate hearings and everything, So, all right, Roy. Well, that was a good discussion. We're only 2 weeks into the NFL season, but man, I feel like there's a lot happened in these 2 weeks.
A lot did. A lot of surprises.
Yeah. So let's see how this season goes. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll come and talk a little fantasy, because with all these injuries and with all these moves, your fantasy teams have to be destroyed just like ours. So maybe we'll talk some fantasy football. Roy, tell the people one little thing that they should do every day.
They should talk to a stranger about sports today. Just go up to somebody and just speak about sports. Let it out.